and welcome to episode 72 of When the Flames Go Up, the ATFC podcast. We're through to the first round. So this episode is discussing the first round draw, which just happened before we started recording. We discuss the Dorking game with Charlie, CJ, and Julian, and then go on to preview the Tamworth game, all in a bit of a rush, really, because we got sidetracked. So there's not much on Tamworth other than to say they don't tend to score that many goals, and we obviously are still the league's top goal scorers for one more week at least. Enjoy the episode and up the shots. So the shots have been drawn. The first two names out of the hat were Weston-super-Mare and Aldershot Town in the first round of the FA Cup. Weston-super-Mare, was just having a quick look at their FA Cup history. They were most recently in the first round last year. They lost lost away at Bristol Rovers. The only time they've made the second round was 2003-04 season, where they lost away at Northampton. They beat Farnborough Town in the first round, so some local interest there. 21 years since they've made the second round. So a weird banana skin / they're a good side anyway, and they're currently second in the National League South, with a good home record at the Woodspring Stadium, and it's the Seagulls. Charlie, I'm going to come to you first. Your immediate reactions to Weston-super-Mare away in the FA Cup?
Yeah, cheers, Will. I think it's a good draw overall. I think when you get to the first round, it's obviously really exciting because you've got the football leagues coming in, and you obviously start thinking about kind of the glamour ties in inverted commas, the likes of the Readings, etc. That would have been fantastic to potentially get. But I do think if you're not going to draw a big club away from home for the day out, what you really want is a team beneath you in the pyramid that you can hopefully beat, to progress as far as possible, because the third round is where the real big boys come in, obviously. So whilst I would have preferred a home draw, I really can't complain about an away draw to a team in a lower division. It'll be really tough, no doubt. You mentioned second in the league. I just had a quick look. I think they're unbeaten at home this season as well. So obviously very, very strong at their place. It'll be a really tough game. And confident we can get through it. We managed to get over the line against Dorking, even though they put us under a lot of pressure, lower division side. But yeah, overall, happy with the draw. Hopefully I can get a ticket.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, I think it's definitely like you say, when you see the big boys already in that first round draw of Reading, Cardiff, Bolton, Barnsley, it's easy to get ahead of yourself. I mean, I wrote it down last week, before just got the notes of episode 71. It says potential of Reading in the first round. So I was already thinking about that the week before we even played Dorking. Julian, your reaction to the Weston-super-Mare draw?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm quite pleased with it. I think I agree with some of Tommy's comments from the week, where I think the most underwhelming draw would have been a team from the same division. So yeah, if you haven't got a home draw, then as long as you haven't drawn anyone in your division, then I think you can't really complain. So yeah, Weston-super-Mare will be a tough one for sure. Yeah, they're playing really well at the moment, as we all know. Probably doing a little bit better than expected. I tend to follow them reasonably closely, as they sort of from my patch of the world, and they have made some really good signings this year. Lost a couple of players last year, but I'm surprised that they're in the top two at the moment and looking really strong. But yeah, overall, pretty pleased. It gives us an opportunity to progress. If a little bit like the Dorking one, I think if we were to get knocked out, it wouldn't cause too many surprises, bearing in mind how well they're playing at the moment. So overall positive. It's just nice and refreshing, to be honest, to be looking at something in a positive light, isn't it? So I'm really looking forward to that game. And like Charlie said, the ticket allocation will be an interesting one, and I'm sure whatever allocation we're giving, we will sell it out without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the capacity listed is 3,500, but their record attendance was just under 2,000, just under 3,000 when they played Doncaster Rovers. I believe at the same points. That was 2014-15 in the first round of the FA Cup. They lost 4-1 at home that day. And I come to you, CJ. Your thoughts on Western-super-Mare in the FA Cup?
I think it's actually quite a nice one. Like just to reiterate what the boys said, really, it's not in our league, like Tommy mentioned, which is a positive, and I think it's winnable. Um, and you know what we're like in the cup, we could play anyone on the day and probably beat them. It's just one of those like examples of FA Cup beauty that, and I think the luxury of going to Western-super-Mare away. Obviously a day out at the seaside for the boys who do go. Um, and anything can happen. And like we saw with Dorking, I only saw the highlights, but all it takes is a little bit of Barrett magic in the FA Cup, and we're into the next round. And we don't even have to play well at times. So yeah, I think Western-super-Mare is a nice one. It's a great opportunity to get us to the second round. Um, and keeps Tommy's cup run sort of thing going with us because we seem to be a bit of a cup team at the moment. And again, at least we've got something to look forward to. because the league's a bit depressing at the minute.
Yes, absolutely. And it's hard in the week leading up to it to put too much emphasis on, it being like a must win, or not a must win, but like it'd be really nice to win. I mean, it was always going to be a difficult game against Dorking, but like you just thought, oh, if we can win a cup game, we need, a little springboard. But it's inevitable that a Tommy Bridgerton side will get past the fourth qualifying round, and Bromley, Woking, Bowers and Pitsea, Chelmsford City were all games before Tommy Bridgerton arrived, and since then we've beaten Lewis, Bath City, and now Dorking. Like that is unheard of. We shouldn't be beating these teams. They're just banana skins that we should be tripping over, and for some reason we turn up and put in some. I mean, Bath City was a weird performance as we mentioned last week, but yeah, we clung on, got through. So yeah, we best start discussing Dorking away. A 3-2 win. The shots going 2-0 up near the end of the half was a big delay in the first half for Ben Jackson to get his bandage on his head, the first bandage, which already looked like it was falling off his head as they were putting it on. He then had to go off about 5 minutes later to get that re-sellotaped or taped up. It was off for another 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the game. So it meant there was a weird situation where I think we scored in the 43rd and then into added time. And then they scored at the very end of added time, half time to make it 2-1. We then scored within 60 seconds of the restart, which was before our second goal went in, time wise. And then, and then Dorking put on the pressure in the second half and got it to 3-2, but the shots clung on. Charlie, you were there. We had a quick chat at half time, mainly discussing the amount of crosses that were coming into the box from left and right. How did you see the rest of the game?
Yeah, well, it was a crazy game, really, wasn't it? I mean, I think I said on the pod last week that I felt confident going into the Dorking game that we'd get through. But then as the game approached and I was seeing all the stuff on social media and online about how much Dorking Wanderers were bigging up the game, about how historic it would be for them to reach the first round, I just thought, oh, this has got home win written all over it. The form we're in, the injuries, on the day, I actually became really nervous. But I've just got to say hats off to the team that played because, what a performance. Maybe not in terms of the football we played, but in terms of getting it over the line and being clinical when we had our chances. You mentioned Ben Jackson, absolute hero with the bandage as well. But yeah, we were just brilliant to get it over the line. I think Dorking were a bit of a throwback really in how they play. I mean, you don't actually often see that many teams lining up with two wingers and two strikers anymore. And in the opening 20 minutes in particular, they were just getting down the flanks at will, and it was just cross after cross into the box. Fortunately, we defended it quite well. And then, I think, as was mentioned before, a bit of Barrett magic changed the game. But really, really pleased that the team managed to get over the line. I think a lot's been made of the defence, and although we conceded two, I think it's fair to say that all of the back three and even Claridge when he came on, they all defended really, really well. So really pleased, really pleased.
Yeah, I was going to mention there it was like a team performance, but the way it's going, it's like we have to have a full squad performance in order to win games. We've always got someone going off and someone coming on. Jed Mearhole's going into central midfield, Claridge coming into the back line. Wondering if Ben Jackson's going to be able to carry on. Have we got enough shirts? He's taken 2 or 3 shirts on. Have we got any more? He's going to have to put on someone else's shirt. So yeah, amazing that we managed to get through virtually unscathed, other than Theo and the potential of Ryan Hill being suspended for the next game, which I'm not sure if I can get complete clarification on, but I'm pretty sure that's 5 yellows. But again, cups and leagues, yellow cards are always confusing. Julian, I'll come to you. You were watching from the commentary box. How was it? What did you think of the performance?
Yeah, it was a really gutsy bats to the wall performance, which I don't think we've seen for quite some time. Very, very privileged, obviously, to be commentating for BBC Surrey on the game, and it was really interesting sitting next to Dan Pybus, the Dorking midfielder. He gave his thoughts on the match as well, and it's really good to hear from a player's point of view what they were seeing as well. And he was really complimentary of Thomas and Gandor up front. He thought they both caused Dorking a hell of a lot of problems. And I thought Gandor did have his best game of the season. Actually, I thought he was running into the channels, causing them all sorts of problems. The back three of Dorking always felt a little bit a lack of mobility there, and I think that's probably why Tommy chose to start with Gandor, because I think he is the one that can stretch them and add a bit of pace there as well. I mean, as Charlie said, God, the first 20 minutes the ball was coming in from all sides, wasn't it? And what really pleased me the most is that all three of the back three, they really stood up to the task, I felt. And Jackson was throwing himself in there. Mullins was doing the same thing. Claridge, when he came on, was making interceptions as well. So, it's probably the first time we can actually throw our hat on it and say, look, the back three did as well as you could ask for. Were Dorking unlucky? Yeah, I think they were. I would have been really peed off at being 2-0 down just before half time. Pryor and Rutherford up front, perhaps they could have been a bit more clinical. Perhaps they lacked that little bit of quality, just getting in front of the defender and getting a shot away. But even when they did get a shot away, Jackson was in there just sort of deflecting the ball over the top, and really a really good performance. And I think I said in my sort of opening match commentary about the need for Barrett to get on the ball, and again, Dan mentioned that Barrett was the danger man in their eyes. He had actually been in the dressing room at the start before the game, and they had identified Josh Barrett as the key player, obviously. And he was quite quiet for 35 minutes, but Barrett does what Barrett does, and Barrett again comes up with the goods, and just was the difference, wasn't he? He was the difference between the two sides, quality finishing, and just a really good performance. Okay, we've let in 2 goals, but it's a one-off game, and you've just got to deal with things. I thought Mearholtz did well when he was popped into the central midfield. I liked the way he added a little bit more mobility into that central midfield position, and of course he made the first goal as well with his sort of run from Archie Taylor's throw, beat his man down the right hand side and then flicked it across to Barrett. So I liked that, and obviously that was down to the injury to Theo, which doesn't look very promising. So with Theo and Tetek out at the moment, then obviously we'll come on to the Tamworth game, but that will be something for Tommy to resolve. But overall, really pleased. I think anybody that goes away to a Dorking and gets a result first time, you've got to be pleased with that. So yeah, couldn't have gone any better in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing like Aldershot putting you through the ringer as well, supporting them. Back to the wall performance. You're thinking, oh God, the ball's just it's going to go in the net at some point. They hit the bar. There's the one they had over the very end, like that heads down and goes wide. I don't know how it's not gone in. There's the other one with Rutherford. I don't know who gets the touch on it either in the second half. I don't know how it hasn't gone in the net. Um, and yeah, the Barrett magic, it did separate the teams. It was quite interesting in his post-match interview where he said he wasn't happy with the way he played because I mean, if we had options, you'd probably take him off. I mean, he barely touched the ball in the first half an hour. Every time he touched it, it was obviously facing away from goal. He's best when he's kind of running in the final third with the ball. He had no chance to do that all game until kind of that one moment. Well, then the second moment is a dead ball, which is an absolutely beautiful whipped cross. It's got pace. It's got dip. I mean, it's Kwame Thomas's dream. Who managed to get free and fling his head at it. And then he's there again to pop up straight away. As yeah, Hadi Gandor gets free, and yeah, great that Gandor and Thomas looked like a strike partnership as well. I thought that was very promising. Because they had to grind as well. Because the defense was under so much pressure that when they finally got the ball, or the ball was finally near them, we needed like 20 seconds, just keep it away from them. Stop. We just can't lose the ball and watch Dorking kind of slowly pass it out the back, and then we're back under pressure. So I think in moments they really helped to keep the result as it was at 3-2. I'll come to you next, CJ. You managed to watch the highlights, I presume, and catch up. What are your thoughts on the win at the weekend?
Yeah, I think Julian hit nail on the head really, is the sense of like Dorking's so easy place to go, and I think we kind of got lucky in the sense it's the devil we know. That we've played them enough times now under Tommy that whether it's hit and miss, whether we've won or not, but like Mark White's teams are like they're hard to beat. They bombard the box with balls. They're so direct in terms of their approach, and not in the sense of just route one either. They'll get the ball into wide players, Jimmy Mewett and stuff like that, and they'll beat 1v1 and then deliver balls into the box, and that is the art of non-league football really, and probably a very old school approach to it. But set two wingers and two centre forwards, and then three players behind to chase everything up in between. I really like the way Dorking play. I think it's really nice to watch. It's old school, but it's still got that modern flair to it where they're not playing too much. I think the natural winger beating a player and putting the ball in the box was probably gone of those days a little bit, and I think we sort of play that way, but not to that extent because obviously we play the same system but just slightly differently. And it's interesting how, like, I don't know if you guys caught Mark White's interview afterwards, but he literally like spoke about Josh Barrett the whole time pretty much and said that how he was like the main person they were trying to get out the game. And it's interesting, like I know obviously Tavon Campbell spoke about it before, and when obviously Yeovil have ever come up against us or whatever team he plays for, I think it was Solihull as well before, they would always do a big part on Josh Barrett. How do we stop Barrett? Don't let Barrett near around the box. And that was, I think, when Tav was at Solihull, they spoke about it then. And it was like, don't let Josh Barrett get on his left or right foot around the 18-yard box. And that was the whole presentation they done around avoiding him in anywhere near the box, because it took one touch and he flicks it into the top corner, and then he'll do nothing for the rest of the game, and then he'll whip a free kick in. All of a sudden, we're 2-0 up, and it's almost like we've done nothing all game. So, like players like that, though, that create little bits of magic, and Mark White spoke about after the game as how they spoke about Josh Barrett being the main instigator for Aldershot, and how if anything happens for Aldershot, it'll be through him. And obviously, we saw it in pre-season against them, and he's done it again for us in the FA Cup. Like the guy said, it was a big day for them. They've never made the first round proper. I think Mark was probably overly confident that they were probably going to beat us. and it kind of seemed that way. Like the propaganda should be put that they were putting all over social media all week. It felt like it was going to lean that way, but again, Tommy knows best, and he always finds a way in the cup. So yeah, it was nice to get through. I think the goals that we scored were really good. Um, Again, probably off the back of nothing as well. Obviously Mirhol's cutting the ball back, and then Barrett just doing what he does. That free kick, like you spoke about, was unbelievable. It had every bit of whip, every bit of venom on it and dip to fall perfectly to Kwame's head. And between him and probably Jason Pryor, there's not many other better forwards to land on the end of it. So I think it was probably the right result in the end. It was probably harsh on Mark. He reckons they should have won with the amount of chances they probably had and the amount of balls in the box, and it's probably a fair shout. But I'm an Aldershot fan, so I don't care.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen plenty of games where we've had that amount of chances. We've hit crossbars and posts, and we've been on the end of defeats. So I won't lose any sleep at knocking Dorking out. They can get through to the first round next year. The only thing I wrote down there, you said propaganda. So I was going to say propaganda to proper Haddy Gandor, but just need to work on that for later in the season. That could maybe be a episode title. Um, didn't know what else we were going to talk about. I wrote down man of the match because I don't actually know who I would have given it to, because I probably, obviously you'd give it to Barrett for his goal contributions, but um, Ben Jackson gets another mention. He was absolutely phenomenal in the centre of defence. Um, and yeah, Dewhurst made some really important blocks as well in there. Um, and I think it was actually interesting you were saying about kind of the old school wingers that Dorking had. It is interesting. Yeah, you don't often see both sides being that attacking and that direct to get a ball in. And that's probably the first time I've seen it live where Hill and Taylor have had to basically defend for most of the game. They really didn't have a chance to get out. The rare times that we did have the ball and managed to push up the pitch, they weren't able to be there kind of free flowing. Obviously, Taylor staying wide and Hill marauding anywhere he can. But I mean, he still picked up the ball in the box at some point during the game as well. So yeah, did anyone else have another shout for man of the match from what they saw?
I mean, I feel like Julian's already touched on it, but I think Haddy Gandor was really, really good. Don't know if I'd give him man of the match, but definitely feel like it's his best performance of the season so far. Just caused their defence absolute nightmares when we did get the chance to just spring a bit of a counter attack, and really great composure as well, actually, for our third goal. Obviously, straight from kickoff. When he didn't hit the ball on the bounce, left-footed half volley, I thought, oh, what are you doing? And then he just took it down, cut it in, laid it on a plate for Barrett, and I was like, great. So yeah, I'd have to give him a shout out as well. But I think Josh Barrett, 2 goals and an assist. You can't really not give it to him.
It was Jackson in the centre of defence for me who was man of the match. I thought, bearing in mind the guy when he first made his debut for us away at Altrincham, I think he had his nose broken, eye socket out, and that was after sort of 30 minutes, and then he comes back in and he's blood all over him again within sort of 2 minutes. Yeah, you got to give the guy some credit for putting his head in where it hurts, and I thought every single cross that came in, and there were a lot of them, as Charlie said, every single cross that came in, it was normally Jackson that got there first. So he was my man of the match by a long way. But there was quite a few that we've already spoken about that could have taken that.
What I think makes it even better, Ben Jackson. I presume he would have been, he obviously knows that Claridge is on the bench, but also probably would have been asked, like, can you continue? And he probably would have been asked about 4 times every time he went off. He was continually bleeding. Like, do you want to keep doing this? Like, are you going to be all right for the next 10 minutes? And he's obviously every single challenge he said yes to, and every single aerial duel that he was put in, he won. And his long legs blocked a hell of a lot. I wasn't able to see from my position behind the goal at Dorking, but the highlights show that he did indeed get his leg on most things. Let's move on to Tamworth at home at the weekend. Back into league action for the Shots, up against a side that had a very good start to the season. They are currently ninth in the National League. They have scored 17, conceded 18. So one of the lowest scorers-ish. Yeah, they're like the lower third of scorers in the league. They've still got Tonks. I'm gonna put it out there that Tonks may be the reason that Premier League teams are currently using long throw-ins. I think if you looked at the graph, it would correlate with when Tonks. Who did they play at home in the FA Cup? Tamworth? Was it Tottenham or something?
Spurs, yeah.
And he was absolutely torrid time with Tonks's long throws. So yeah, manager Andy Peaks. I couldn't recognise any of the players, which is poor for me, but hopefully everyone else can fill in the gaps. Charlie, I'll come to you. A home game at home to Tamworth. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think Tamworth continue to surprise me, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but they obviously came up last season, had a brilliant season in the league, and then had a fantastic cup run as well. They lost a couple of players in the summer, most notably Dan Creaney, who I thought was excellent on the two times I saw him last season. Scored a couple of goals against us at the Rec as well, and I thought, are they going to be in for a bit of a tougher time this season? Maybe if teams found out their direct style a little bit, but they seem to be doing really, really well again. Similar to you, I don't know loads about all of their players, but obviously the Tom Tonks long throw is really well documented. And I notice I think their joint top goal scorer is their centre back this season, Kennedy Deege. So I've seen a few of their highlights, and he's scoring quite a lot from not just long throws, but from corners as well. So I think we know what to expect with Tamworth. They're going to be super direct, very solid as well, and we just need to stand up to it. I'm glad we've got a home game to come on to next, but it is the start of a really, really tough run of games. So Tamworth sitting in ninth. I think after that, the next 4 or maybe even 5 league games after that are all against sides that are above Tamworth in the table. So we really need to be picking up wins, even though this isn't going to be an easy game. So hopefully we can be positive and cause them problems. But yeah, I'm expecting a tough game.
Yeah. You mentioned Diggy. Yeah, Hayden Hollis, obviously, beside him, and Jazz Singh in goal, who had a worldie away at Tamworth, I seem to remember. And Julian, I'll come to you. Your thoughts on Tamworth at home at the weekend?
Yeah, I was going to just purely agree with everything Charlie just said there. I've written down they've lost Creaney in the summer, second season syndrome. Normally that first season you cause a surprise, second season you get found out, but they've just continued to do what they do, and what they do really well. And I think that's the key, is they're not interested in anybody else's style. They just stick to what they do. They get the players in that will fit into their particular way of playing, and they just do it really well. Jazz Singh, you mentioned him. He's a colossus of a keeper. He's really strong, really sturdy, big central defenders, tidy midfield, effective up front. And of course, with Mr. Tonks throwing the ball in from his own penalty area, it seems like at times, they just keep doing what they do, and they do it well. And I am surprised that they aren't there, if I'm being totally honest, because I didn't think they would keep it going. But again, just to echo what Charlie said there, this is a really important game for me, because if it feels like it's almost like a must win, and I know you don't really get those in October, but if we can win this one off the back of what we did against Dorking, that will inspire a bit of confidence. And we, again, as Charlie said, we've got a hell of a run in November to come up, and if we can pick up the result here, then it just gives us that confidence to move into the rest of the next 5 or 6 games with a bit of belief that we can actually do something.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Tamworth in the league, 6 unbeaten. Their last defeat was away to York, a 4-0 defeat. But yeah, before that they had two more wins. So it's they've been beaten by York. I mean, as an outlier, I think that's pretty good. And they did get through in the FA Cup. I did mean to write down who they got, but they beat Hyde United. if anyone can remember off the top of their head, that'd be great. CJ, I'll come to you. Your thoughts ahead of Tamworth at the weekend.
Yeah, I think Tamworth's a weird one. I'm just looking at their like recent form and stuff now. They beat Hyde United 1-0, drew 1-1 with Morecambe, beat Altrincham 2-1, drew 1-1 with Hartlepool, 1-1 Wealdstone. It just seems to be a bit of a rolling factor here. They don't really score many goals, but then they're quite hard to beat. So, again, it's probably that old school approach where it's just direct, it's aggressive, it's firm, it's we're not going to be beaten. Like they don't really score goals. I think the last time they scored a couple was Sutton United when they beat them 3-2 in early September. Other than that, they beat Braintree 2-1, and the rest is all 1-1s or 2-0 against Truro. They don't really seem to score more than that, and if they do, they tend to either lose the game or draw. So I think that bodes well in our factor because we're going to concede. It's just whether we can outscore them or not. I think, and that's probably the direction that we probably have to go in at this game, is that we just have to outscore them and just hope for the best. Because if they're only averaging pretty much 1 goal a game, we average 2.5 a game pretty much at most weeks anyway. And like I always say, if you're a betting man, bet on Aldershot, both teams to score on over 2.5 goals, and you're probably in for a good day. Over 3.5 if you're really feeling optimistic. I'm always optimistic, to be honest. And I always think Tommy's got a plan up his sleeve. I think if Tamworth are coming for a 1-0, then they might be a bit out of luck. I think these are the type of games where we probably come into our own a little bit, especially at home, that teams can't just sit off us and hope we're just not going to score, because the likelihood is we will, especially at home. So if we go into, if Tamworth turn up and they're going to come for a 1-0, it's probably going to be a long afternoon for them defending. If they go 1-0 up, then obviously there'll be a lot of pressure on us to try and score then. So hopefully we go 1-0 up and then we're trying to get them out and chasing the game a little bit. I feel like that'll be our best chance. But to be honest, other than the weekend, I don't remember us going 1-0 up in a while. So, hopefully, like this is the sort of game where I reckon we got a point in us, and then it just builds a little bit of platform, bit of momentum, then to just keep going on. Like we keep speaking about though, the biggest thing for us is getting players back in the door with injuries and stuff like that. Hopefully, Jackson's available after he took an absolute beating at Dorking, and he's probably heads all over the shop since he's joined us. Theo seems to be out. If you go by Tommy's chat after the game, it was good to see Harfield and Frost walking around after the game as well. If you saw the celebration video, hopefully Frosty's not too far away, because I think he's a big miss. He brings a lot of balance to the team, especially going forwards and defending. So yeah, I just hope we get some bodies in the door in the next few weeks. I know Dowson spoke about bringing new players in as well after not the Dorking game, but the game before that. So hopefully we have a few new faces in, or at least some bodies back in the door, and a little bit of momentum builds after the Dorking game. Because I think once we get 1 or 2 going, we tend to spiral it a little bit, but then it also goes the same the other way with us. It's one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, let's hope we can outscore Tamworth at the weekend. I suppose the other lower scorers in the league, Eastleigh, they only scored 15 all season. They scored 3 against us. So, it's yin and yang. Putting all positives. Charlie has put in the chat that Tamworth got Leighton Orient at home. Don't know if that changes anything. It doesn't really. If it was a big tie, then it might have. We haven't got that much time to discuss much more, but I'm sure we'll be back next week to discuss the lineup and hopefully a shots win. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, CJ, and thank you, Julian.
No problem.
Yeah, cheers, guys. See ya.